first, let me say condolences to the family of Bob Njagi and his friends. Kama ni kweli, the news that I'm getting that he has been found dead, that is very sad. We'll definitely need to agree on this space what we'll do about it. But I just want to say that as people have been speaking, my conscience has been awakened in terms of what other people can do to plug in into what I've been doing so that it stops being my struggle and it becomes our struggle. So, and this is what I've thought. You see, hii political party yenye tunataka kutengeneza, even if we make it, we will not win anything or will not succeed with anything without civic education. In fact, our win is pegged solely on civic education. Bila civic education, that is a dead party. Nothing will ever happen to it. The majority of the voters kitu wanalack ni civic education. So why don't we do this? Why don't we take this political party and then we do civic education and member registration? So after tumeshughulika hivi, we plan a day on this space, tuseme sasa kama next week hivi, we show up and have a meeting somewhere in the party office, now that we have a physical location where we will be operating from, where we will be doing our meetings, where we will be doing our documentation, where we will be doing our strategy from, a home, a place we call home. Why don't we meet there? We plan, we agree, we see how much resources we have and how much we can raise. Then we divide ourselves into different roles. We assign ourselves different constituencies and counties. We go down there and recruit ambassadors and start serious civic education on the ground so that mission ya chama isikue kufikiria wanasiasa ama who is going to be our candidate for governor, who is going to be our candidate for president. Tuseme we are fighting one battle at a time. For now, we are fighting the battle on civic education. Tukimaliza hiyo ndo turudi kwa chama tuanze kufikiria candidates. So if all of us on this space can agree that we can have that meetup, those who cannot meet up will show up online, then we have that meeting at the party office. Muoni hiyo ofisi kwanza ikue yenu, mjue it's not my personal property. Once you get into the gate, you own it, you become part of it. Then sasa muitumie kama base of operations from where we plan our civic education engagements. Gari yenu yenye mmelipa na pesa yenu, as Elder said, mchukue iende ifanye hizo civic education, so that once we've done the civic education ndio turudi sasa kudiscuss mambo ya siasa. Why don't we succeed on one thing first, which is civic education, then succeed on the rest? I've just said this so that I can inform the conversation going forward in terms of how I'm beginning to see this looking out.
Arian, you can speak next.
Hi guys.
Hello.
I've been waiting for a while, but I really appreciate for you giving me the mic. There is a time I dropped, but now I'm back. But my heart goes out to the family of Bob Jaggi and the Longton brothers. I'm not preempting anyone's death, but it was a bit obvious that these men were not alive, because some of my TLs, I was asking myself, how can 3 men of sober mind be missing for this long and they're not contacting their families? It's very, very sad. And my heart is so saddened by this. And it's not also a coincidence that the death of Bob Njagi, if it's confirmed, that it's occurring now that somebody is supposed to be serving their sentence. They want to now say that probably the Masengeli guy shouldn't go and serve his jail term. Probably now because the person has been found dead, and then they'll start saying it is goons, it is who and who. I feel so sad about this whole thing and what has come of our government. So the other thing I wanted to say was I've been following the issues going on the TL, and I'm just hoping that people can reduce the bickering on the timeline so that we can concentrate on that. It's obviously always healthy to exchange ideas and disagree on principle, but not who let emotions on everything. And finally, I would want to really say that let's support Nelson. I saw a lady on the TL saying that Nelson really needs our support. We can see the way our comrades are going down one by one. If you stand up against the government, if you have something to say, not even the government, if you actually have something to say about something going wrong, I've been dropping off space, so I haven't heard much of what was happening but
Easter, your internet.
I think one of the concerns that people had about
Can you guys hear?
No.
No, we can't hear her.
Maybe we can give Mark. We can give Mark the mic and then she can speak later.
Okay, thanks so much, Mothoni and Kimuzi. So I'll try to keep it short as much as I have probably a lot to say. And I'd like to remind Morara and everyone that we actually need to acknowledge the systematic machinery that is in place to hamper a lot of our activities, be it protest, be it political organization, and whatnot. And we need to actually ask. I commend Bonara for what he's been doing, and I will not echo the many thank yous that he's already been told. And as we talk about the political party, we need to acknowledge the barriers and the bottlenecks that actually need to be broken fast or addressed fast before we can actually form government in 2027. And we also need to ask ourselves what will magically improve in the system in terms of IBC, in terms of voter bribery, intimidation, violence that we're witnessing, if what we're hearing about Bob Njagi is true, and all other forms of violence that we've been witnessing, the deaths during the protest and all of that, the political twisting, especially between now and 2027, what will magically improve? And if we don't actually address the impunity in the system that is actually run by individuals, there is actually no tomorrow, the tomorrow that we're planning. And it's important to fundamentally acknowledge that we are actually in a revolution, however much we may not want to acknowledge that. And revolutions actually, there are several things that actually show us that we're in a revolution. The first thing is the mass discontent among population. We have already seen it. The protests have assured us that it's happening. The the second thing is the powerful versus the ones in power. We've already seen the powerful Gen Z voices and the all the generations actually the Kenyans who stood up to protest against the finance bill and to even proceed to occupy parliament. And that actually shows you that that's a really key indicator that we are in the middle of a revolution. The third thing that we need to acknowledge is a common issue brought people together. That was the finance bill and all these other bills that appeared to be sponsored by maybe the West or some elite politburo in terms of the people who are actually in power. And the fourth thing was actually the state found itself in a crisis that weakened its ability to quell the protests. So you see, when we organized in such a quick way, the government was not really prepared. And this should also bring us to learning about what happened in other revolutions. I particularly remember what happened in the Chinese Revolution, and the Communist uprising was actually beaten in 1927, and in 1928 the Soviet Union invaded China's territory, but uh, they were still weakened, and it was eventually in 1938 when the economy was totally weakened due to the influx of the cheap American goods that the communist uprising actually stood a chance. And the fifth thing is the international support. So we actually noticed that international community were actually supporting the protest. They saw the legitimate thing that the people were protesting about. So whether or not we accept it on this space, a revolution happened, and it's happening because there's only 4,000 of us here. There's 50 million out in the streets, out in their homes, thinking about the injustices that are happening in the government. And we should fundamentally be against the government's repressive actions in terms of the killings. And in as much as we know that tunauliwa kwa maandamano, and even random kids who are in schools and coming from schools wanapigwa risasi. So it's not just going to maandamano that will get you killed in such an environment. And we have to acknowledge that revolutions don't actually need saviors or silver bullets. So if we actually think that we can, it's important to remember who Ruto is, and it's not ideal to think that we can beat him in 2027. Allowing him 5 years to organize politically, he proved to beat Raila and Uhuru's handshake government when they had power. What makes us think that now that we want to form a political party, or we are fielding independent candidates who for once have always been in the field? So we need to ask the fundamental questions of ideologies. And when we're talking about ideologies, Morara mentioned the value systems in society. Most of us tend to think only on morality. And when we think about morality, we look at who's going to church, who has a stable family, and we can see the politicians who rob us and send people to kill us. They have wives, they show up to churches on Sundays, they actually go to church more than you. So morality is actually a double-edged sword. If you look at it, I don't want to get into that conversation, and we should actually be focusing on the ideologies. So even when Morara is speaking, we want to hear his specific ideologies. And as much as we have acknowledged that right now he's not supporting the government, as we can see with his Vampire Diaries series, at one point he was supporting the government. So the evil that he saw in Ruto at that time, or the evil that he didn't see in Ruto at that time, the fundamental ideology that actually enabled us as Kenyans to hand the government to Ruto, which is what we did. And we have to remember that we have actually handed government to two consecutive ICC witnesses. So it's not a morality question, it's an ideology point of view. And we are looking at
We give.
and one and as I wind up, one of the questions that Morara should be addressing as our thought leader, uh, what is the strong stand that we can expect from you in terms of police brutality, injustices, and we have to also cut the exceptionalism when we're talking about having the headquarters in Eastleigh would do insecurity and all of that, and talking about how alcoholism and drug abuse and LGBTQ are due to lack of family leadership. Those are things we can question later, but also those are things that we should address fundamentally as ideologies. So let me wind up by reminding us that we actually need to be awake beyond what we are thinking right now. That we have a political awakening. We also need to remember the environment that we're living in. The bitter reality is of authoritarianism and the death of our fellow comrades, which is what we're experiencing. So let us continue to read, and I will recommend a book, Revolutions and Dictatorships by Stephen Levitsky and Lucian Way. It addresses the violent origins of authoritarianism and dictatorship. It will shed more light into how we should actually be looking at addressing such a tyrannic government. Thank you, the speakers.
Karibu. Good to Maticha. Maticha has been here for long. Maticha.
Yes, hello. Kindly confirm you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much. First, I'm perturbed by the fact that you people can be arguing about slogans. Kenya ni home, mi ndo nilianzisha. Like, what the hell? We are stooping so low. And it's the same things that made us to lose focus until Nane failed. And then we all came out to cry, oh, we need to re-strategize. We need to re-strategize, guys. Then, when the Messiah gave us Morara, calling him a product of the same failed system. Morara is, I'll defend him not because I've seen him on the internet, but because he was once my classmate at KU School of Law. If I'll defend him and be called a thief, then call me one. Reason being, he has gone against all odds to prove that he can fight, he can be bold, he can be fierce, he can be the man to challenge the system without fear, without intimidation. When everyone was running helter skelter and it was go back to your families, it is when he emerged. We'll still support him. Shida ni tuko na village ingine huko Facebook, village ingine huko ushago, where we'll need to go translate everything that you're putting on these X spaces in English. We translate them all to a local dialect so that the solutions that you are proposing gets to trickle down to the interiormost point penye Morara atafika. Na each time ukiwa kwa kibanda, be the Morara wa hiyo time, call out the atrocities that they are doing. Look, we have again done it. Bob Njagi is down. We should give a 1 minute of silence through the co-host and the host for the lost soul. The streets are calling us again. Let's do it. Let's test the might. Back to your host.
Where is Nonini? Nonini was here. I don't know if he left. Okay, give speak.
Thank you, host. I'm Gideon from Kericho. First of all, I'm saddened by the Bob Njagi news. I hope they are not true. Second, I want to appreciate Morara and Kimuzi and everyone who's taken up their roles in different capacities in this revolution. Especially Morara. I know after 25th, you all decided let's strategize, and our main two goals were civic education and definitely a political party. And we were here on X that tukuwe na civic education na tuunde chama, but nobody took the role, and I appreciate Morara took up the role, and that's a plus so far, and so far so good. I just want to say it takes a lot of sacrifice, resources, and courage and time, but Morara, you're going places. Second, I think after we've had the political party and after the delegates and stuff wamekaa chini, wame come up na ideologies and stuff. I think first of all, before turudi ground, we do some civic education. We should do like ile yenye tunaenda Bomas ama sijui ni Kasarani Pavilion or something to launch the party, ishike the limelight, and then tukienda civic, tukirudi ground sasa for mass registration na civic education, I think it will be okay after the Isha spread through. So that's all. And guys, let's keep pushing. Morara Fika Kericho, we have very many stalled projects which route are launched, and we are very ready. People want change, by the way. I hope Umona after the Aaron Cheriots expose, many people from Kericho are against him. So guys, wamechoka. Yeah, thank you.